Mr. Chairman. Ai mi kia koutou ngā member o te whare I tai mai I tēnei ata. I muri kati atu ki a tāta atua. He mi ki te taonga e takato nei I marae o kārunu I tēnei ua. Te pāpā o koutou kaimahi o tēnei kaunihera o te Matawa Māui. Tenio, teneo. Ka mati a tana pāpā a Rob. He mihi nui ki a ia, I tēnei wā, me tai atu mate. I takato I runga I a tātou marae I tēnei wā, ka whānau o upoko iri, Hakiwai. He mihi ki a rātou I takahia te huarahi tika mō ngā tangata katoa. Ka piti hono tātai hono, hono mate, a rātou ki a rātou. Ka piti hono kanohi ora hui mai I tēnei wā, I mihi ki a koutou. E tō mate rani, e whakamoimetia mātou I tai mai I tēnei wā. Mauia mai tō mani me tō aroha I runga I a mātou. E ahi I a mātou te takahia te huarahi tika, te huarahi pono, e pānga ki a tātou mahi I takato I runga I tēnei tēpu I tēnei rā. Mauria mai tō manaki me tō tiaki I runga a mātou whānau I noho ai I te pauritanga, te whānau maihana, me te whānau Hakiwai me I tai atu. Me I tai atu rātou he noho ai te māwiwi I te pauritanga, I te māmaitanga hoki. I pātai ati tō mua tapu mo ati tonu atu. Āmeni.
Issue raised today. Councillor Belford, among others, raised complaints that the councillors were not turning on their microphones and therefore you could not hear what people were speaking when it came to looking at the video later. Staff helpfully decided that they would change the system and change it so that it went on automatically when someone was speaking. Now this is going to be fine, except that councillors from time to time have side comments. And whilst you might have had the microphone off, you might not be aware that suddenly it was going to go live. And I thought councillors, if they can't remember to turn their microphone on when they're speaking, will not remember to make sure they step away from the council table when they have a private side conversation. Now I'm sure that you can think that it won't be that long before someone says something on the side to another person which could be misinterpreted or very embarrassing. So I've taken an executive decision today to simply have that system overturned immediately. And we're going to run a very tight ship and the people are going to have to put their microphones on when they speak. And in the meantime, we're going to think about a new system. And I've just said to the staff that this is our place, our council chamber, and we've already changed the made, we should be consulted about that. That's our thing to do. And so I stick with that. And just remind all councillors, including myself, that they should have their cell phones turned on because sign language. Right. So there's going to be buttons, fingers on the button for the red light before you speak. And when you finish speaking, finger on the button to turn the red light off. Okay, welcome everybody. Apologies, we have Councillor Graham ringing in. He's on. Are you there, Rex?
I'm here.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. All right, well, I want to now move to item 2. No apologies for today. Mr. Chairman.
I have a notice, Chair.
Do you have a notice? Councillor Graham, the floor is yours. Rex, go.
Can you hear me?
We can't hear you, don't talk.
Yeah, well, thanks. Firstly, I need to say that I don't have a red light in front of me, so I will need to explain to the council I will not be pressing any buttons or making any comments that hopefully are derogatory at the moment. My notice is, so I'm on telephone call here. Do I get a vote? Is council happy that I have a vote on this decision before us?
I've been pointing out, red light. I've been helpfully pointed out to, it confirms my instinct and my recall, Standing Order 12.9, where a meeting has a quorum determined by the number physically present, the members attending by electronic link can vote on any matters raised at the meeting. So yes, you do have a vote, but not two.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, now I'm going to move on. Councillor Dick.
Mr. Chairman, at the last council meeting, I asked for leave of absence for medical reasons, and I was due to have an operation on the day of the last, I think it's the last workshop. Anyway, I got bumped off on the day, and the probability is that I won't be attended to until February, so I'm withdrawing my notice of motion. And I will attend what I can, but some things may be a little difficult for me.
Well, thank you for that, Councillor Dick. We wish you the best. I'm sure all of us here wish you the best for your speedy medical, and we'll do whatever we can to ensure that you can participate in the council meeting comfortably.
Thank you.
Right, item 2, conflict of interest declarations. Has anybody got a conflict of interest they would like to declare for today's meeting? Being none, we'll move on. Confirmation of the minutes of the Regional Council meeting held on the 25th of October. Judy, these have been circulated to all councillors, have they not? They have. You've all read them. Anybody got any comments, additions, alterations, amendments, suggestions? Big silence. I'll ask some member councillor to move that the minutes be endorsed.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a mover? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bevan. All those in favour will say aye, contrary no. Carry.
Aye.
We now move on to item 4. This is the reason we're here for today. Can I just say that my intention as the chair is to invite the staff to speak about it, to introduce the paper. It's their paper. I wish them to stick to the technicalities of it as a straight paper. Then I'm going to ask Mr. Paku to speak to the issue and set that out. And following that, I thought it would be helpful for me if we went around the council table to ask councillors to give a brief outline of what their individual thoughts were on this matter. I'm not sure there's any need for questions. We're all pretty clear about it. The options are pretty clear. We just thought let's have a statement of where people see this line. And once we've got that, I think we'll then have a sense of where this meeting intends to go. Cut to the chase. All right. James, who's talking on behalf of the executive team. Liz Lamb.
Thank you, Mr.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, councillors and members of the public. I'm going to ask Mrs. Hooper also to come up the front. She, in her role as Council Electoral Officer, and you'll see we'll also have, I'll be joined by Mr. Paku representing the Maori Standing Committee, and apologies for Mr. Mulkey for not being able to be here, and also Joyce Ann Waihania. And as the chairman indicated, they will be speaking shortly about the feedback from the Huia iwi that were held. But first of all, I just want to thank the councillors for allowing us to actually conduct a special council meeting in order to meet statutory timelines where a decision needs to be made by the 23rd of November, but in conjunction with that, allowing for some further consultation to take place organised by the Maori Standing Committee with the support of the Regional Planning Committee. So this particular issue of Maori constituencies is one that Council is required to consider once every 6 years, and the Council, as is normal practice, invites the opinion of the Maori Standing Committee. We held a workshop with the Maori Standing Committee, and they advised that they actually wanted to go out and talk to their people about it. So hence the need for a slight delay. Well, we couldn't bring this paper back to the October meeting, but that allowance of time for us is very much appreciated. The paper itself sets out the process that's required under legislation. It sets out the options, and the flow chart, which is up on the screen up behind you, also I think sets out the actual options that you're able to do and the consequences of those, and I think that having something like that makes it a lot easier than referring to a whole lot of different sections of the Act and what may happen. But essentially you have the choice today of resolving to establish one or more Māori constituencies. You can choose not to make a decision, and the other two decisions, you can resolve to hold a poll at the next local body election, which is October 2019, or you can resolve to hold a poll sooner than that, so that the outcome of that can take effect for 2019. So the paper, again, sets out what those processes are, and I will ask if you have any questions about that either Mrs. Hooper or myself may be able to answer those, but I think it would probably be quite timely, Mr. Chairman, to seek the input from Mr. Paku, please.
Yes, just before we go to that, is there any questions about the technical processes here? Yes, Councillor Weber.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just seeking clarification. If the council today passes a resolution confirming that they wish to proceed with Māori wards or representation, and there is no requirement for a poll because we don't receive a 5% support for that, does that mean that then at that point automatically the Māori representation seats are created, or is there another process?
There's still another process in terms of the representation review that you have to undertake next year in any event, as part of your statutory requirements. But what it means is that those Māori constituencies will be a part of the representation review, so they will have to be taken into account when you establish or amend any boundaries or any name changes. And obviously if you were to resolve today to establish Māori constituencies and there was no demand for a poll received, you would also have to, as part of the representation review, look potentially at the boundary for those constituencies, if you choose not to just have one covering the whole region. So and what the names of those would be, and those would be part of the representation review.
So could I just respond to that, because to be clear, as I understand that, if the council today decides that there's going to have Māori representation, either one or two constituencies, and there is no 5%, no petition getting past the 5%, then we proceed on the basis that the constituencies will be part of this council, and all to be done in the representation review is to find the shape of them and the name of them. Is that clear? Right. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question of clarification. In 22.2, you talk about the cost of the poll. Is that the same if it's held as independently, or whether it's held in conjunction with the local body elections in October?
So that's for a singular poll, not alongside the elections.
Have you got any idea of
It would be included as part of the costs of the overall election. So I wouldn't be able to give you an approximate cost. The figures from the last election, we pay a proportion of each of the district and city council elections as well, because it's run in conjunction with them. So
If I can just help again, it seems to me that if it was run as a separate poll, it would be as expensive as outlined. But it was run as part of the general ballot system, is simply one more question on a ballot paper.
Yeah.
And all the rest of the costs are incurred, so it would be, in my view, a marginal extra cost. Councillor Belford.
I want to go back to Councillor Bevan's question, because I'm just still not sure. If when we get to the representation review, can we change our minds? Can we rescind an action taken today? Or can we, if we were to say no today, could we say yes at the representation review? Or the reverse?
Who would like to answer this, Liz?
No, today's decision can only be overturned by a poll or a further council resolution after the 2022 elections. Any resolution will be in effect for 2019 and 2022.
Thank you.
So if we go over the edge today, that's the way we go, free fall. Okay. Any other questions?
Just trying to determine is that Rex looking at us down the end of the table?
I don't know who that.
No, I'm just doing it in the meantime until he's set up.
For our Facebook feed. Right, okay.
Sorry.
We are, Peter, you're on
Makes a
Facebook.
change, that's all.
Peter, you're on Facebook, that's right. Okay.
Sorry, Chair, with your permission, I've just thought of one other consequential cost potentially of having a poll with the next election, and that is that council would be required to undertake another representation review at that stage if the result of the poll was yes established.
And of course, if we take the decision today to establish Māori constituencies, then at the next election period, people will be voting for them. If you had the ballot for it at the next election, it wouldn't be until a subsequent one. Councillor Bevan, you've got your hand up, you want a question?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is the right time and place for this question, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
I will.
If we go ahead and vote in favour of creating Māori constituencies today, who are the electors who vote in those constituencies? Is it based on the Māori rolls, or is it based on self-nomination, or what?
Who wants to answer this?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as per number 3 in the paper, the Māori constituencies elect from the Māori electoral roll. So the voters must be on the Māori electoral roll. The other thing is that anyone who nominates a candidate in the Māori constituencies must be on that Māori roll in that constituency.
But the candidate does not have to be. Councillor Hewitt?
Thank you. Good morning. If this went successfully through today, then how would the makeup of the Regional Planning Committee be? Would we in effect get 2 more Māori representatives around the Regional Planning Committee with an 80% threshold?
Through you, Mr. Chair, while we haven't specifically considered that particular point in the paper, we have, I guess, put some thought towards that. And I come back to the founding principle of the Regional Planning Committee, which is equal representation. And at the moment we have 9 treaty settlement groups who are represented or can be represented around the table. And the principle is equal representation, so there would have to be 9 elected representatives. I think if there were to end up being 11 councillors elected, there would have to be some discussion among those 11 as to who is not going to sit around the Regional Planning Committee table. But that would be a discussion that would have to be held once that decision is made.
Okay. Questions done? We move forward. Mike, would you like to give us a presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to recognise the members of the Whanganui Orotu Taipena who have come along this morning to support the discussions this morning and to give me support. Secondly, I'd like to recognise the councillors, and also thirdly, I'd like to recognise the direction that the Chairman has given, and that is cutting straight to the chase, and so I will do that. In saying that, it would be fair to say that the feedback and the results of the discussions that were held amongst our various tai whenua is that the overwhelming outcome of those was that Māori wish to see Māori representation at this council table. And so with that, bearing that in mind, our option would be that council move to establish a or more than a Māori constituent. So that would be the recommendation coming from overall from the various four tai whenua that make up the Māori Statutory Advisory Committee. It's also been supported by members of the Regional Planning Committee, the Māori members of the Regional Planning Committee as well. We understand the issues surrounding it, not only for ourselves, also for you as councillors and also for the wider public. We ask you to take into consideration when making your deliberations today the value that Māori bring not only to this council but to this region. And I ask you to take that into consideration, and I use the example of the waste disposal plant that are now currently situated in Hastings and in Napier. Those plants came about by Māori pushing to have a far better disposal system in place than what was being recommended by either Hastings City Council or Napier City Council, and to some degree supported by Regional Council. We were required to go to the Environmental Court in order to have our views expressed. We can all see the outcome of that and how that has benefited not only the environment of our region, and especially our Hawke Bay, but also the financial value that proposition brought to the region by placing a scheme in there that had reduced the overall expected running costs of a waste treatment plant. There are many demonstrations of that going back over time of the value that Māori have brought to the region. One can say that actually we have brought value right back from the establishment of colonialism to this country. We have endorsed the relationship and the partnership of settlement of this region. The other thing that was highlighted through those consultative hui was the value and relationship that Māori have to our environment. And when you look at the main function and role of this committee, environment protection is one of the main principal pieces of work of this council. Māori have some may say, a umbilical relationship to the environment. And I say that as when you go back and look at our stories and our whakapapa around the creation of the universe, you will see where our relationship to the environment starts from. It starts from the separation of Papatūānuku and Ranginui, where the environments, the celestial environmental gods, were used to separate and bring life. So I'm referring there to Tāne Mahuta, Tāwhiri Mātua, Tongaroa, all those environmental entities are part of our inner being. And so we have this unique, and it's not just, I'm not just saying that it's only unique to Māori, no one else, but we do have this unique relationship and history with our environment. We are appreciative of the partnership that we have established and relationship we have established with the Hawke's Bay Regional Council up to this point. We recognise the Māori Statutory Advisory Committee. We also recognise the recent establishment of the Regional Planning Committee. But those two committees do not give us a voice at this, the final decision-making table. And it is at this level that we wish to further participate. We believe we have earned the right to sit at this table. We believe we have demonstrated over time, again and again, the value that we can bring to the region of Hawke's Bay. We believe that our added beliefs and our closeness to our environment will enhance the decision-making of this council. We ask for this knowing that the councillors are required to take on the views of the wider community, and we acknowledge that. But we also ask that you give respect, that you give us the promise of what the Treaty of Waitangi set out to do and its principles, which was to allow us, alongside the council, to lead and to help set out the environmental and economic, what's the word I'm looking for, advantages that come out of such a committee as this, a council as this. I'm not going to add too much more to that, other than to say, although that was the general outcome of our consultational hui, that Māori would like to see the establishment of Māori representation, it was not the view of all. There were one or two who felt that we shouldn't participate, period, with regional council. There were others who felt that actually the participation or the potential offer of a Māori wards was actually not enough. In actual fact, we should be having a 50-50 partnership. But at the end of the day, there was overwhelming support, at least 95% from those that attended the hui, that there be established Māori wards. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to leave it at that. I believe I've kept to your instructions, and I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Chairman.